Imagine commanding armies that stretch across continents, only to face the hangman's noose less than 3 years later. Hideki Tojo, Iwane Matsui, and 5 others, once rulers of life and death, spent their final hours in prison, confronting the consequences of their crimes. Their executions weren't just punishment. They were the dramatic, terrifying end of a militaristic empire. Tokyo, 1948. The world watched as Japan's top military and political leaders faced their final judgment. These men had once commanded millions, shaping the fate of nations and orchestrating unspeakable atrocities. Now, stripped of power, they awaited the gallows, a dramatic reckoning for a war that had left millions dead and empires in ruins. Hideki Tojo, Japan's wartime prime minister, was the embodiment of military ambition. As the architect of Japan's entry into the Pacific War, he oversaw invasions that stretched across Southeast Asia and the Pacific Islands. When Allied forces occupied Japan in 1945, Tojo attempted to take his own life, but survived, narrowly spared by American medics. Stripped of rank and power, he faced the Tokyo War Crimes Tribunal, where evidence of his direct involvement in Pearl Harbor, the Burma-Thailand Railway, and brutal treatment of prisoners was overwhelming. Yet even in the shadow of death, Tojo transformed. Hours in prison were spent in prayer, reading Christian texts, and writing letters to his family. The defiant general became a man grappling with the weight of his actions. As December 23rd approached, Tojo maintained military precision, walking steadily to the gallows. The world would soon see whether the man who once ruled millions could face the ultimate consequence with dignity or fear. General Iwane Matsui commanded Japanese forces during the Nanking Campaign of 1937, an operation that ended in one of the most infamous massacres of the war. Though he had studied China and claimed respect for its people, he could not, or would not, stop the atrocities committed by troops under his command. Tens of thousands of civilians and prisoners were slaughtered. At the Tokyo Tribunal, Matsui insisted he had tried to maintain discipline, yet the court held him accountable for failing to prevent mass murder. Aging and frail, he spent his final days reflecting quietly on his career. On execution day, Matsui walked to the gallows with the composure of a soldier, facing the consequences of command responsibility. General Hitaro Kimura oversaw the construction of the infamous Burma-Thailand Death Railway, a project where thousands of Allied POWs and civilian laborers perished under brutal conditions. Known for his meticulous administrative skills, Kimura prioritized efficiency over human life, pushing workers to exhaustion, starvation, and disease. During the Tokyo Tribunal, survivors' testimonies and documents revealed the deadly consequences of his orders. Despite claiming he followed higher commands, the court found him guilty of war crimes, holding him responsible for the human suffering he orchestrated. In his final weeks, Kimura meticulously documented prison life, yet the shadow of the thousands who had died under his authority loomed over every step toward the gallows. Staff Officer Akira Muto played a key role in Japan's Philippines campaign, where strategic plans prioritized military objectives over civilian safety. Under his direction, Japanese forces engaged in widespread destruction, leaving thousands of Filipino civilians dead. At the Tokyo Tribunal, evidence showed that Muto's planning directly contributed to these atrocities, even if he did not issue frontline orders. In prison, he spent his final days writing and reflecting on military strategy, wrestling with the human cost of decisions made from a desk rather than the battlefield. Field Marshal Shunroku Hata commanded Japanese forces in China, implementing the brutal 3-all policy: kill all, burn all, destroy all. Villages were razed, civilians executed, and infrastructure demolished in the name of pacification. At the Tokyo Tribunal, evidence proved Hata had not only authorized but overseen these operations. Yet even in prison, the career officer maintained his disciplined military bearing. In his final days, he grappled with the moral consequences of decades spent viewing warfare solely through the lens of strategy and effectiveness. Koki Hirota, Japan's former prime minister and foreign minister, was the only civilian among the condemned. Through diplomacy, he helped forge the Axis alliance with Germany and set Japan on the path to aggressive war in China. At the Tokyo Tribunal, prosecutors argued that his political decisions made military expansion inevitable. In prison, Hirota spent his final days writing reflections on Japan's future, aware that the consequences of his policies had rippled far beyond his office and would end with his own execution. Seiro Itagaki, another architect of Japan's wartime policies, joined the other 6 in their final hours. Each man followed strict routines in Sugamo prison, writing letters, reflecting on their lives, and confronting the weight of their actions. Guards noted their unwavering military bearing, even as the reality of execution loomed. As midnight approached, the 7 condemned walked the final corridor toward the gallows. Tojo led with measured steps. Others followed, their minds haunted by past decisions. The gallows awaited, a stark symbol of justice, and the ultimate reckoning for a generation of leaders who had once ruled life and death. The executions marked a turning point for Japan and the world. The ashes of the 7 men were scattered at sea, ensuring no memorial could glorify them. Japan began its transformation into a peaceful democracy, renouncing war in its new constitution. Globally, the Tokyo Tribunal set precedents for command responsibility, crimes against humanity, and the accountability of both military and political leaders. The trials highlighted that power could never shield one from justice, and that the consequences of unchecked ambition reverberate far beyond the battlefield. As the gallows fell silent, the world was left to reckon with the legacy of unchecked ambition. 7 lives ended, but the questions remain. How far will power corrupt, and who will be held accountable when history repeats itself?